We've all seen those people online, offering all sorts of advice, haven't we? It sometimes makes you wonder about the person behind the screen.
Yeah, definitely. You see the polished front, but what's underneath?
Exactly. Take the title of this YouTube video we've been looking at. Nui Noi Daoli Thung Chung Tun.
Which translates to those who preach morality often stay single forever. Quite a title.
It really is. It's a thought-provoking contrast, right? And that's exactly where our deep dive begins today.
Go.
We're exploring the world of Kong Ken, a content creator featured on Vietcetera's Gen Z Trune.
Right. I remember seeing some of her stuff.
What really caught our attention was this fascinating tension. She puts out confident online content about relationships, yet she freely admits she's, well, never actually been in love.
Hmm. What's intriguing from the outset is this apparent disconnect, you know?
Totally.
You have this very active online presence dealing with complex relationship stuff, and then a self-described reserved person saying basically, I haven't experienced that firsthand.
Yeah. It immediately makes you ask, okay, where's this content coming from then? And what does it tell us about, like, the online self versus the real life self?
Precisely. So our mission today is to really dig beneath the surface. We want to understand the experiences and the perspectives that inform Konken's online creations,
Uh-huh.
especially given this lack of firsthand romantic experience.
And it's worth noting her content covers a lot more than just relationships. But that initial point about love definitely sparks your curiosity.
Mm.
How does someone offer insights into something they haven't personally lived through?
It really resonates with a broader trend we see online, doesn't it? The carefully constructed self, the aspirational content.
Right.
It makes you think about the connection, or maybe the lack of connection, between our online personas and our offline lives. Is it a complete split, or are there, more subtle links? That's what we're aiming to unpack here.
Okay, so let's start by looking at this contrast. The online persona versus the offline reality. In that YouTube interview with Latu, the surprise is almost, well, you can feel it, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. That direct question. How can you make relationship content without having been in love?
Yeah.
And what's interesting is Kung Ken's explanation. She says her content comes from watching others, observing their relationships, and sort of adopting different viewpoints.
Which suggests what, like a real capacity for empathy or maybe just sharp observation skills?
Could be both. Definitely a sharp analytical mind when it comes to how people interact, even without being directly involved herself.
And it gets even more revealing with that card game they played. She picks one card for her online self, and she struggles to define it, says it just leads her.
Right. Kind of fluid, instinctive.
But then for her offline self,
Kong Mung Balka.
Never give up.
that immediately sets up this interesting tension, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That card choice speaks volumes. The online persona is presented as fluid, almost undefined, evolving naturally. But then offline, it's characterized by this real determination, this refusal to quit. It suggests a pretty clear distinction, whether she intends it or not, between her online presentation and her core traits.
She even talks about how she creates content spontaneously, no scripts, just records her thoughts, then films.
Yeah, that fits with the online persona being sort of led, not strictly planned.
But then this never give up thing offline seems so fundamental to who she is.
It hints at different ways she engages with things, perhaps. Online is maybe for exploration, instant expression.
And offline?
Offline is where that determined, persistent nature really kicks in, is probably where she draws her resilience from day to day.
Okay, so let's get into her motivations for creating this online space. She mentioned feeling like she didn't quite fit in, at work or school,
Right.
and wanting to build her own space with her own rules. I think a lot of people can probably relate to that feeling.
Oh, for sure. That basic human need for belonging, for self-expression, it's powerful. If you feel a bit on the outside in traditional settings, the internet offers this unique chance to, build your own community. Find your people.
And the positive feedback she got clearly played a big role. She talks about the joy of connecting with her audience, who sometimes seem to get her better than people in her real life.
That's quite a statement, isn't it, about online connection?
It is.
Yeah.
What do you think makes that possible?
Well, it shows how online communities can offer a kind of validation and understanding that might be missing elsewhere, especially if you feel you don't quite mesh with your immediate social circle.
Now, she does admit her online persona is a layer she puts on. She's not showing 100% of her true self.
Which is fair. Most of us curate our online selves to some extent.
Literally.
But what's insightful is her reason. She describes her core personality as reserved,
wary, even shy.
And that anecdote about her roommates having to leave the apartment when she films.
Because she's so sensitive to noise.
Exactly. That really paints a picture of the contrast.
It does. Lo Tu, the interviewer, even says she was surprised by how calm and reserved Kong Ken was in person, so different from the online energy.
Mm-hmm. It just highlights the performative aspect of online personas. Often, what we see is a selected, maybe amplified version of someone's traits tailored for that online space.
Raises questions about authenticity online, for sure.
And the pressures involved in presenting yourself digitally.
Let's go back to that never give up offline trait, Hungung Bukkuk. She said it's got a dual nature, helpful but sometimes harmful. How does that actually show up for her?
Well, she explains it drives her to do everything to the absolute best of her ability, even small things.
Like washing dishes.
Exactly. That example of washing dishes perfectly, it shows this ingrained need for thoroughness, for hitting a high personal standard.
And then there's her competitive side, learning languages, for instance. If she starts level with someone, she feels this real push to get ahead, to surpass them.
Yeah, that sounds like a powerful internal driver.
Yeah.
This competitive streak probably feeds that never give up mentality. It suggests a deep desire to achieve, to overcome challenges, maybe even just proving things to herself.
So where does the more guarded, reserved nature come from? She traces it back to middle school, experiences around her appearance, feeling excluded.
Middle school is such a tough, formative time for self-esteem and fitting in.
Totally.
And her experience, feeling excluded because of her weight, she mentioned losing a significant amount, going from 78 kilograms down to the 50s and just not fitting in. That likely created a lot of vulnerability back then.
And then that story about the song cover she posted online got hardly any likes, but then faced unwanted attention at school because of it.
Oof. Yeah, that sounds incredibly difficult.
Right. You can see how that would lead someone to build protective walls.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
really shows the potential downsides of being visible online. A seemingly innocent act of expression can lead to negative real-world stuff, making you want to put up that layer or wall she talks about just for self-protection.
It's fascinating how those past things shape us now, online and off. Which brings us to support systems. She tends to bring positivity to others, but keeps her own problems private.
The interviewer even noted feelings similarly.
Yeah. Why do you think that's such a common thing, putting on a brave face?
Well, it could be a coping mechanism. Maybe wanting to seem strong, capable, or not wanting to burden others. It can also be about controlling how your vulnerabilities are seen.
And then there's her brief attempt at Tinder. That story is quite telling.
Oh, right, the zoomed-in photo of her eyes.
With a cryptic caption
Yeah.
and 0 matches.
Yeah. That really underlines her discomfort with putting her true self out there, even on a platform designed for connection. It speaks volumes about that guardedness, maybe a fear of being misunderstood or vulnerable.
Then they played that swipe right left game with assumptions about her. She denied being naturally dan nachiosio, sarcastic and sharp.
Right, she said it takes effort, it's partly performance online.
Which is interesting. It reinforces the idea that the online persona is crafted.
Definitely. Though she does say she can be sharp if provoked, dung la trong, like, mess with me and you'll get burned.
So it's a reaction, not her baseline personality.
Exactly. Not her default mode.
And of course, the main point again, she repeats she's never been in love. Despite all the relationship content, the interviewer is still like, really?
Understandably. It keeps bringing us back to that question. Where does the material come from?
And the answer seems to be
Observation, empathy, adopting perspective. She's like an external analyst of relationships, studying them without direct personal experience. It shows this remarkable capacity for analysis, really.
There was that funny bit about Suho Bofuk exposing family secrets.
Yeah. She clarified it's mostly her brother, Than, who features, sometimes apparently okay with it.
Their dynamic sounds interesting. Similar personalities causing friction, his high expectations influencing her.
Sibling stuff can be incredibly formative, right?
Yeah.
The clashes, the expectations. It definitely shapes your personality and how you see the world, which likely feeds into her content too.
So, back to the core question. Where does the inspiration really come from, if not romantic experience? The interviewer asks if a major personal event shaped her.
And Kong Ken points to that tough transition from being a top student in middle school to struggling in a super competitive high school, feeling lost, grades dropping.
How might that have shaped her perspective, do you think?
Well, That kind of shift from feeling successful to suddenly feeling inadequate can massively impact your self-worth, your sense of belonging, especially during those teen years.
She even ended up in remedial classes and resisted forced tutoring.
Yeah, which shows that never give up spirit again, but in a different way. It's not just pushing through, it's pushing back against a system that wasn't working for her, finding her own path,
Exactly, it's self-advocacy.
which probably empowered her, leading her towards a better environment.
And that leads to the big turning point, transferring to a new high school in Saigon. There, she found real support, care from teachers, especially her math teacher who helped her catch up.
That sounds hugely transformative. After feeling dismissed or inadequate, experiencing genuine care and feeling valued, that can completely change a young person's self-perception, their whole outlook,
She connects that experience directly to her own growth, wanting to be better because of that kindness.
which is a powerful motivator, isn't it? Not external pressure, but internal drive sparked by genuine support.
Yeah.
It really underlines the importance of a positive, nurturing environment. And that contrast she draws is key. The focus on Donvan fame, reputation in the old school versus Su Yuthuing, love, care in the new one.
Yeah.
It suggests a shift from seeking external validation to valuing internal growth fueled by positive connections.
They finish up with one last game, choosing a card for their conversation. Nukity?
A move or a strategy.
Right. And her take is that this deep dive showed a different move, a side of her she doesn't usually share online, beyond the energetic persona, like a strategic reveal.
That feels like a very fitting way to put it. She recognized that the conversation brought out a more nuanced, maybe more vulnerable part of her personality, a move towards a bit more transparency, at least in that interview setting.
And the interviewer clearly appreciated seeing that other side of her. It really humanizes the online figure, doesn't it? Gives context.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder that behind every online persona, there's a complex person with their own history, experiences, and reasons for doing what they do. It all shapes their perspective and what they create.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Kangken. For me, the key takeaway is really that fascinating contrast,
Yeah.
the confident online presence versus the more reserved offline self, and how those experiences, especially that high school shift, really shaped her unique view and her voice online.
And what stands out to me is her ability to use observation and empathy to create compelling content about things she hasn't directly experienced. It makes you think about all the different ways we learn and connect, even on really personal topics.
It really does. And it makes you, the listener, maybe think about your own online personas. How do they differ from who you are offline? What layers you show and what experiences have shaped those?
Which leaves us with a final thought to mull over. How do our past experiences, even the difficult ones, end up influencing the diverse content we put out into the world, whether online or just in our daily interactions? What are the unseen moves that got us here, and what really drives us to share our unique perspectives? It's worth thinking about that intricate dance between our inner lives and the faces we present.